Dad fixes cabinet, hears noise behind wall. He'd been working on the kitchen for a week now. Everything was panning out great and by the upcoming week they would have a new kitchen to cook their meals in. But when he dragged the cabinet aside to fix it, he noticed a peculiar handle on the wall. Although everything within him warned him not to get close, he couldn't help but pull the handle. What he and his wife found made them step back. Jack and Melissa moved into their new home a few months after getting married. Looking to spend the rest of their lives together, they'd hunted down a beautiful two-bedroom fixer-upper house in Houston, Texas. The young couple spent their first year turning the house into their dream home. Everything was going according to plan until they got to fixing the kitchen. Jack and Melissa's house was more than half a century old. Despite its age, the house was among the prettiest in their neighborhood. Its previous owners had done a remarkable job keeping it in good shape. The fixes Jack and Melissa did on the house were necessary ones. For one, they wanted to make their home baby-friendly, as they were expecting their firstborn soon. They had no clue how much the renovation would impact their lives. Jack spent a better part of his teenage and early adult years as a handyman. As such, he did most of the renovations by himself, which Melissa told him was very cute. A year had passed, and the rest of the house was as beautiful as Jack and Melissa envisioned when they moved in. If the kitchen's renovation mirrored the other rooms, the couple would have the home of their dreams. Jack took his mallet and set to caving in the kitchen parts they didn't need. He redid the tiles, cupboards, counters, and island. Standing firmly against the wall was a broken antique mahogany cabinet. It had been among the items that made Jack and Melissa fall in love with this house. Jack couldn't destroy it. He dragged it away from the wall to figure out how to fix it. Then he saw what was hiding behind it. Jack grew up reading fantasy books about entire worlds hidden behind cabinets and closets. What he was staring at was better than anything he'd ever read. Safely tucked into the wall was a small safe. Jack tugged the safe's handle, and it wouldn't budge. He took a step back, wondering why one of the previous families left a locked safe while moving out. Jack rubbed a hand down his face as he studied the safe. He realized it was at least a decades old, given its design and chapped paint. "Lisa," he called out, and Melissa came running in. "What is it?" she asked. Jack pointed at the safe. Melissa's eyes broadened. What she did next left Jack slack-jawed. Melissa stormed out of the kitchen, leaving Jack alone. He was about to rush after her when she returned, one of her bags in hand. She rummaged through it, producing an old poker card. "What's that?" Jack asked with a quizzical look. "I'm not sure yet," Melissa answered, a broad smile plastered on her face. She waved the card before Jack's eyes and said, "This thing has given me quite the sleepless nights." She turned the card over, and Jack saw what she was referring to. 26552. Jack read the final numbers penned into the card's back. Melissa entered them into the safe for the dozenth time. They were about to give up when something inside the metal door clicked. "I found the card while we were doing the main bedroom," she chirped as the safe's door slid open. Jack held her back. There was no telling what secrets hid inside the safe for all these years. The safe revealed its secrets to Jack and Melissa. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Stacks of dollar bills, a bottle of 1959 bourbon, and a tattered novel published in the 60s stared back at them. Melissa meant to shove her hand into the safe when Jack held her back. "Might be booby-trapped," he said, and she laughed. Melissa took the book first, her brows drawing up at what hid in its pages. Melissa pulled a map of Houston from the novel. The map was old and leached of color. It had an X marked on its many neighborhoods. As Melissa studied it, Jack realized that the map wasn't the only thing marked. He took the book from her, seeing that a few folded pages had their paragraphs underlined in pencil. What was going on? The more Jack and Melissa studied the enigma before them, the more interesting it got. They'd found old photos of a family inside the novel, with quotes from the book that seemingly hinted at a treasure somewhere in the city. Was any of this true, or was one of the house's previous owners playing a cruel trick on them? They would get to the bottom of this. Jack fetched their laptop, joining Melissa on the kitchen table. Through Google Maps, they ascertained the place marked on the map, Hyde Park, Houston. They also counted the cash inside the safe, finding out they had a staggering $80,000 in their possession. But there was one problem. The money left in the safe was too much for someone not to return for it. The details in the novel and the map were also well thought out. What if the young couple used the money and landed themselves in big trouble? Jack decided to share his worry with Melissa. She suggested something that made his lips part. "Let's move it to a safe deposit box," Melissa said. She pulled a small note at the end of the novel. It read, "Dear Tevin, glad you found this next batch. Hope it makes up for all those years I wasn't around. Please read the book I've left for you. Love, Richard." There were a series of these safes, I think, Melissa added. "Let's keep it safe for him till he gets here." Jack looked at his wife, seeing the calm and resolve in her blue eyes. He nodded with a smile. Being with her was the only treasure in his life.